It is a common experience for pastors who've been preaching at a congregation for a while to find oneself asking or wondering if we are repeating stories we've told before. I have been accused of repeating my stories over and over again, and it's probably pretty accurate as well. I do know that the story I'm about to tell you is a story I have told before because I remember telling it on my very first Sunday preaching here at Heartland Presbyterian Church. It's actually one of my favorite stories to tell. And it's the story of my first junior high dance. Do you all remember those? So it was in some ways the first junior high dance I knew was coming up, and I must confess it created something of an existential crisis for me, in part because I had no idea how to dance. So I went to my mom, and she says, well, we'll practice. And so we began to practice dancing in the living room, and she began to show me some moves. This is back in the 70s, so days of disco. And there were quite a few moves to really learn. And so I practiced over the weeks ahead of time. We practiced and turned on the music and turned it up quite loud. It's actually some of my favorite memories of my mother, was dancing in the living room, learning how to dance for my first junior high dance. And we went all out. Mom was really getting me prepared for this big event. We got me some new clothes, a lime green leisure suit. Do y'all remember those? Some of you. Polyester shirt and brown earth shoes. I have a picture of it. I won't show it to you, but I have a picture of it. But I was quite proud. But as I entered the gym at the junior high, as I came into the gym, I realized something that I hadn't thought about before, was as much as I had practiced dancing in my living room, I had never practiced dancing in front of other people. And so I was quite self-conscious when I came into the gym. And then it also hit me another thing that I realized was I was going to have to ask a girl to dance. Now, this is back in the day when, in order to dance, you had to ask someone to dance with you. Now, I think kids are much more enlightened. They dance in groups, much brighter than we were back then. But you could not get on the dance floor. You would be shamed if you got on the dance floor without inviting someone to dance. And I could barely talk to girls in junior high, much less invite someone to dance. And it became obvious to me that this was a reality hitting home everybody in the gym, because on one side of the gym were all the boys, and on the other side of the gym were all the girls, and there was this great chasm between us, unapproachable, no man's land. And there was no way, and the music's playing, and we're all looking at our feet, some of us looking pretty sharp in our lime green leisure suits. And no way to cross that great chasm. But then a miracle happened. As I'm watching, a young woman stands and begins to come across this great chasm and begins to approach the line of boys. Bravest act of courage I've ever seen. She actually begins to approach me. It had to be the lime green leisure suit. And she asks, do you want to dance? And I stumbled my way through. I kind of became numb. I finally ended up on the dance floor, just her and just me, and we began to dance. And I know I was so profoundly self-conscious. It was hard to do, all these eyes staring at us, but at some point, as the music's playing, you begin to lose yourself in the dance. And to our surprise, others began to join us as well, until the whole gymnasium was filled with junior high kids dancing, losing themselves, losing ourselves in the joy of dancing. And I am convinced these days we don't dance enough. I thought of that this week as I read our text, our story of Palm Sunday. Jesus' triumphant entry into Jerusalem, and often when we imagine that story in our heads, there's this sense of the streets of Jerusalem at the beginning of Holy Days. More often than not, we envision a kind of parade, right? Marching through the city, waving palms and cloaks. A somewhat kind of like Thanksgiving parade, a stately parade, waving palms, fit to honor a regal king. But if you really pay attention to the story as it's told in the Gospel of Luke and the other Gospels, I think we really should imagine it a little differently. Instead of this organized parade, it is actually a rave party. Everyone dancing in the streets, waving their palms, cloaks around, shouting and singing with unabandoned joy. They're loud enough, it's clear, and out of control enough that the Pharisees are bothered. What's all this dancing in the street? What's all this singing? What's all this celebration? Teacher, order your disciples to pipe down. And I can kind of imagine Jesus smiling, saying, even if this crowd got quiet, the very stones would sing and shout and dance. We don't dance enough. Barbara Ehrenreich, sociologist, cultural historian, wrote a book titled Dancing in the Streets, A History of Collective Joy, in which she highlights throughout history how different cultures, how different communities, the very importance of communal dancing for human beings as a vital component of human bonding and connecting, as we are innately social beings. From Native American powwows to carnival celebrations of the Middle Ages to the southern small town square dancing. We dance to express collective joy, collective hope, and collective connection. It bonds us together in deep, deep ways. And it strikes me, we don't dance enough these days. I look around, and there just aren't many opportunities to dance together, are there anymore? Occasional wedding reception, right? Music concert or a music festival, maybe. I don't know if they even have them anymore, a dance club. If you can find some place to go dancing. But we don't dance anymore. Dancing, like many of our social practices, are disappearing. Much to our detriment, as sociologists say, both physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Now, we don't dance enough. That might seem a strange observation coming from a Presbyterian minister, right? Who is part of a religious cultural tradition sometimes called the frozen chosen. We Presbyterians are known more for our rather sober and somber piety, often suspicious of anyone who actually might raise their arms above their shoulders or actually might move their feet in worship. None of that, right? We don't dance. We nod our heads, maybe sway a little bit so no one notices, as long as someone is not looking. And that's unfortunate, because it is not necessarily a characteristic of our tradition. And I'm reminded of that when I go to worship with First Arabic Presbyterian Church in Des Moines. It's a community, many of you might not be aware, but a community of Sudanese refugees who've come to our country for refuge from civil war, from horrors of genocide. And if you go, and these are people who come with nothing, and they come and worship together in this church, people who have nothing when they come, no connections, and yet somehow they have found each other. And if you go and worship with them, they dance, and they sing, and they clap, and they express this collective joy of what it means to be together in Jesus. So if you worship with them, you have to dance, you have to clap, you have to sing, you have to experience that joy. And they move like those disciples on Palm Sunday, dancing in the streets, even as the very shadow of the cross is approaching. Even then, if they can dance, brothers and sisters, we can dance, right? I think I've realized more as I've gotten older, I don't dance as much as I used to. It's not because I've got a new knee or I'm a little cranky. It's just I've forgotten, right? And I really wasn't reminded of that until my two grandsons, both about almost 2 years old. And they have this way that if we turn music on, they just start dancing. They do. And unfortunately, they want me to dance with them, right? So when did we lose that? When did we forget that? There's no self-consciousness, just a shared joy in moving together, dancing together there in the living room. And I ask myself, when did I forget to dance more? Now, I would propose to you this morning that one of the ways in the world we live in, one of the ways we resist the darkness, one of the ways we push back against the discord of our times is we are called to dance. I think those who danced in the street welcoming Jesus knew what was coming, yet they danced. They danced to express joy in the face of an empire so afraid of someone who preached peace, they nailed him to the cross. They danced to express joy despite the forces that would divide them into sectarian groups, us versus them, the haves and the have-nots. They danced together. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but one day, I believe, we will all dance together. And until that day, I'm going to invite the younger kids up here. Come on, kids. Come on up here. And I know you Presbyterians are going to be freaked out. But I'm going to ask y'all as we sing, the hymn we're going to sing is a very meaningful one to Heartland, Glory, Hallelujah, Jubilee, is kind of a theme song for our congregation. And we are going to, the band's going to lead us as we sing that song, but I'm going to invite you, if you are comfortable, to dance with the kids throughout the sanctuary as we do this. So if you are able, please stand as we sing Follow the Kids, we're going to dance together, brothers and sisters. So let us begin.